Well, there's a little bit.
I still haven't forgiven you for shooting my twins.
I think you get more populace living on the
They haven't
streets.
forgiven myself for that.
I've been feeding them for about 5 months.
You know, like a week later, they point and stepped out, stood right there, broadside.
Yeah, North Fork.
Up their
Oh,
ass.
I bet.
With your dogs, they went there.
First
First time they
We
ever
had a
saw
late,
them.
they like 3-hour meeting.
So they're thinking.
Tasty.
They've agreed to open some stuff, but they would just.
How'd it go? Good?
From their fault.
Good? Yeah, good. Good.
Yeah. So we'll see. Hey, you guys are coming first and last.
Joel, I wonder if they came down through Jackson, did you? Might have.
Actually,
Good scenic route.
I told you he was doing Kelsey's one, I think we still have it.
And so the chief talked him into making, trying to get us a deal on it at 50, and that's what they did. So I did get it in writing that they're willing to sell it for 50. We had raised about 25,000 towards this truck, and originally, before they even said that they were gonna try to donate it to us. This truck costs about 1.1 million new. And looking at used trucks, this truck is worth in this area well over 100,000 to try to buy used, if you can find one. We looked at a lot of different used vehicles over New England and out west, and anything in this range is well over 100 grand to try to buy. It's got a 1,500 gallon pump, 2,000 gallons of water. It's got Class B foam, which our other truck doesn't have. So if we have a tractor trailer fire up there, we're able to put the fire out with a Class B foam, where right now, we pretty much would have to watch it burn if it's a fuel fire. It's got 3 powered dumps from the cab. And it comes with all the ladders and the portable dump tank. They just had a full service done on it, and they put about $8,000 of new rubber on it last week. So as of now, the truck that we have as our second truck out is a 1972 with 800 gallons of water and a 300 pump. The other night while we were training, we actually lost the pump on that truck. The truck's still drivable, but the pump is not working. So I haven't touched it at this point to see what it would cost to even think of trying to fix it. So it's just a rolling toolbox at this time. Any questions on the
Yeah.
truck?
Was your plan to have it driven here or
They
trailer?
said they would drive it out and train us on the truck. They're looking at late August or first week of September.
Yeah.
Their truck arrives next week and they're gonna start training.
This is the same truck that you showed us that day.
It is.
Yes, beautiful truck.
Yeah, looks super clean. It's coming from a high-end town outside of Hartford. It's a high-end community. These trucks are well taken care of.
Middletown?
What's that?
Is that Middletown, Connecticut?
It's Westfield.
No. I see a Middletown address.
So their replacement truck is gonna be doing about when?
They should have it within the next week or so.
Okay.
They were hoping that this truck would be ready by mid-August, 1st of September at the latest.
They receive that truck, it's gonna be serviceable at that point in time, or do they have to do any work to it to
The new one.
put it in the service? Yeah, the new one.
The new one's all ready to go. They just have to
They
train
just
on it.
gotta get it in there, okay.
Yeah, that's coming fully equipped. They just have to train.
We do have the funds in the capital account for Rockwood Fire under equipment that will cover our share, 25,000 of this sale price.
Can you just explain that? We have a capital equipment fund for the Rockwood Fire Department.
Yes, we do.
So we have enough money in that And this is what that capital equipment fund is for?
Yeah, it's for equipment for the fire department, and it would definitely cover this truck. So we've got 41,000 in it
Okay.
right now, so
Good.
that covers this.
I'm concerned that there are not enough people in Rockwood that know how to drive a stick shift, is that,
This is an automatic.
yeah, is that
That's
really
why I
true?
bought this, that's why I wanted this truck, because it's an automatic. Yeah, the old stick shift truck, I have 3 people that can drive it.
It's concerning to me.
It is,
What's happening here?
right.
What's happening?
That's what's nice about this truck. It is an automatic. I wouldn't even think of buying this in today's market.
So what do we, Mr.
This is just a workshop. I think there's actually going to be a resolution further down.
Okay.
So
Very
he's
good.
just discussing this with us. Do we have any questions?
No?
And then I guess the next discussion in the workshop is a boat purchase.
So the boat we talked about before, I was trying to get your permission to move forward with fundraising, and I have a guy through Landvest that's willing to take my proposal and try to get the money through investors, through Landvest. So I was looking for your guys' support to support the boat that we get. So I gave you the prices on you have to have it marine inspected, I guess, when you first get a boat in the water. Of course, insurance, fuel, and the money to keep people trained up yearly. That's what we're looking for the support. The boat itself will be bought by either investors or fundraising. The boat we originally wanted and we had the money for, that boat is now gone. That was a $70,000 boat we were gonna be able to buy for about $34,000. Now, I need to get permission to keep moving forward to look for another boat. I put a proposal together, and if I get approval from you, then it's going to that guy from Land Trust for $150,000 for a used boat. I know I can buy something between 80 and 100,000. Go ahead, sir.
So you don't have a boat now, am I
No.
right? And you want to get a boat? And Landvest is willing to buy the boat?
Well, he has investors, I guess that when they needed $3.5 million to finish building the hospital, that they put people together that were willing to invest money.
It's not really an investment, I would think, in the classic sense. So this is just...
Right, they're willing to donate the money.
More of a,
Okay. And the reason they want to have this boat is for improved fire and rescue on the lake.
Correct. Right now, there's nothing on the lake.
But we're not talking about a boat with a fire engine on it that's going
It
to...
has a fire pump on it.
So it actually could put out a fire on the shore.
Correct. It'd be able to put out a boat fire, or we'd be able to pull lines off the boat and fight a fire on shore.
Wow.
As long as it's not
Too big.
a mile. I mean, obviously, a lot of our stuff, if it's not a camp, it's by water drops and forestry
Yeah.
equipment.
But if it was a camp right on the lake, you
We'd
could
be
actually
able to fight
afford
the
it.
fire. Right now, we watch it burn, unless there's a road to get there.
And I think a question I brought up before was, if anything on any island or anything on the other shore is Piscataquis County,
The whole lake's Piscataquis County,
but not the camps on the,
not the camps
On
on
our
the side,
shore,
on the
yeah.
shore. Correct.
and they don't, these investors, I guess, are people from Greenville that,
I don't know who the investors might not even be from the state.
I'm just wondering how much so-called skin in the game that Piscataquis County wants in this. I mean, this really is, to a certain extent, very beneficial to them. Do we have any kind of reciprocity?
The problem is everybody around us thinks that we cover them already. So Kineo thinks Rockwood covers them,
Well,
and we don't. We do, we have for years, but technically that's not our coverage area.
so why
I
don't
can
they,
see Kineo from my house, I live right in front of Kineo, but technically Greenville, 45 minutes away, it's their job to go there and put fire.
I'm just wondering, really, I'm just saying, why wouldn't Piscataquis County want to contribute to this, where, I mean, with some sort of collaborative effort to, I mean, they're a direct
They have
beneficiary.
no boat either.
They have no boat, and they rely on us to put out their fires. It's really what you're saying.
It's mutual aid.
Is that the way it should be?
Mutual aid, I work for the city of Augusta. We don't put fires out by ourselves.
Yeah,
I have 14 people under me in Augusta, and when we show up, we call every mutual aid company around and put fires out.
and
That's how it works.
it's reciprocal too.
Correct.
So do they come help us when we have
Yes.
a fire on?
I live in Madison and Skowhegan is first responder.
Yeah, I understand, I just didn't know
We all.
if we're the only game in town if we're the only game in town, so to speak, up the lake, providing the service. I don't know how reciprocal that is, but just curious.
Yeah. So for me, it's taking care of the community. I get that, what you're saying, and it's real easy to sell down the road, but it's hard to stand on shore and watch multi-million-dollar homes burn, and I have no capability to get out there. The Katahdin holds 180-plus people. If that boat catches on fire again, because 3 years ago, they almost lost the boat, there was 80 people on it that day. If that boat has any medical problems, there's no way to get to that boat. And that boat mostly carries elderly people and kids. That water in Moosehead's never 70 degrees or better, other than 2 weeks in August. You have to be willing to sacrifice all these people for what little bit of money it's gonna cost to cover a boat. That's how I look at it.
Well, yeah, and I don't disagree with you, I'm just saying it seems a little bit odd to me that you have this very big lake up there with people all over it, and
I
the
agree.
Katahdin and all these other things coming out of Greenville, and they're kind of relying on Rockwood.
They don't rely on anybody. They rely on the warden service right now, which
Yeah.
it may be around, it may not. The warden service covers the lake right now. They're not EMS and they're not fire. So it's, like right now, it's all good and dandy until, it's like 9/11. It's all good until something happens. And we're trying to be forward thinking, because if they do have a fire on Kineo, if they have a fire, or even major boat accident, that lake's starting to look like Lake Winnipesaukee more every day. 5 years ago, there was fishing boats out there. Right now, there's 2 Top Gun boats that do over 125 miles an hour, and a whole pile of Baja boats that do 80 and 90 miles an hour. That's what we see on the lake now. They're not out there fishing anymore. So it's a matter of time before we deal with all of these boats piled up and no way to get there.
Well, I'm just throwing it out that it seems to me that the city of Greenville or the county of Piscataquis ought to have some sort of interest in ensuring safety and fire protection on the lake.
They're 3 to 5 years out for a boat because they're building a fire station right now.
Okay, well, thanks.
So, but no, I agree. It's a
Well,
tough sell, but it's
just
not our coverage area.
Just answered it. I just wondered in the townships on the Piscataquis side, what are the fire department availabilities in the townships? Or are they just building one now?
For
For the Piscataquis side of the lake?
Greenville's the only
It's the
fire
only one.
department over there.
It's only one over.
We're the same way on our side. We cover a huge area. We're the only department. So,
So for this boat, the cost of the boat is gonna be taken care of, it's just it's the upkeep, the insurances, it's keeping it running
Correct.
once it's owned.
that's all.
And rough dollar on that, I don't remember what we
They gave that out at the last meeting.
Right.
I think it's $4,000 a year,
Yeah.
except for the first year. First year includes that marine inspection.
The inspection, right.
Which was $1,800 quoted,
Roughly
but you only
$4,000
do
a
that
year.
once. So you figure $6,000 the first year, and then $4,000, plus or minus with the cost of living and maintenance and that kind of increase. But not a huge impact. If the boat purchase itself is done with donated, raised
Right.
funds, then we just have to do the smaller part.
So have you actually inquired with Greenville or the Piscataquis County Commissioners about a mutual aid in funding?
I have not talked to the commissioners. I have talked to the chief down there about, my plans or his plans, and they really, they're working on a new truck at a new station. What they do is they commandeer a boat if they need one to go out there and commandeer in a boat.
Works out as well as a snowmobile?
It's gonna be the same idea, like I've got a big boat on that lake and I will not be taking it up for a rescue call.
Okay,
Thank you.
Again,
Thank you.
yeah.
but, like the last time we went out, we'd have 2 dead people on the lake, I didn't go out and pull them out. So,
So on,
But don't tell them about this fire engine we're getting.
right,
We don't want Greenville getting in on that one.
roughly how many residencies or camps on our side of the shore?
I couldn't give you that number.
I
100?
could, but
Hundreds.
It's a
Hundreds.
lot.
Hundreds, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
there's a lot.
Okay.
And they're nice places. They're not the old fishing and hunting shacks from, you know.
They're all
decades ago.
multi-million-dollar places.
Probably the nicest place is on Somerset Lake in Tomhegan Township.
So in that regard, they're paying property tax to the state, which in turn, we're receiving a portion of that property tax.
Yes.
And this $4,000 a year could be part of that property
Oh,
tax we're
yes.
receiving.
The
So-
$4,000 is not gonna have much impact on our budget. Our budget is, before we count revenue, it's about 2.4 million. So revenue brings it down to around 2 million. So $4,000 is pretty small compared to that amount.
Yeah, it would seem strange anywhere off of the lake to have a neighborhood of that value and have no protection from fire.
No doubt. In springtime, we can access most of these places by boat because the ice goes out far quicker than these roads are usually accessible by truck.
Absolutely.
It's usually, I mean, I've seen frost come out a couple of years ago, first week in July, it was still coming out on the 20-mile road. So to take a tanker truck out through there, we know where it's gonna be sitting. It won't be at the fire.
So what's your plan as far as is training individuals to run that boat? Is there?
Most of us own boats anyways, so it's not a big mystery, but it's gonna be.
Is the insurance gonna require something specific? Possibly?
I have a certified boater safety from the state, but I mean, that's really simple, basic. It's really authority having jurisdiction, so whatever I put together for them.
Okay.
Most of the training would involve the pump and.
Correct, and depending on what kind of pump, like some of the boats, the one I'm looking at, Naples potentially is selling theirs, I don't know, I know they just bought a new one. Theirs is all set up with a pump, it's already on Sebago Lake, so it wouldn't have to be inspected if it was brought to Rockwood by the Marine, because it's already in Maine, but who knows what will happen there. We're going down to look at it and see what they have, give us options, but yeah, it's driving at night, it's driving with GPS and driving, most of that lake's pretty safe, most of it's pretty shallow, so I'm not shallow, so I'm not worried about too many rocks unless you get close to shore or into some of the coves, so.
On the previous boat that was available, you guys had to purchase a pump for that.
I would have had to purchase a pump.
On the boat you're gonna get now should come equipped with it.
Well, yeah, if we go with the boat that we're looking at, we'll have a pump already on it.
Okay.
Well set, any questions?
That's fine.
Very good, thank you very
I'll
much.
have approvals on the next meeting, so you guys can officially vote, you know, for or against.
Excellent.
The sled thing, that sled's still sitting in storage in Rockwood.
I was gonna ask you that. I've got it written in my thing to ask you, what do you think we should do with that?
I put it up at auction, you guys must have a county auction.
We don't.
You don't do a county auction.
No.
Not to say we couldn't, but we haven't.
I know some areas, like I know they do, the state does an auction in Augusta all the time, so I don't know if you guys do a county.
Submerged is not gonna be worth a whole lot, and you're not gonna be able to part it out because of that, so.
Right, it's worth parts. I mean, it does run, it starts right up and goes, but as time goes with the water and the electronics, it's gonna be problems.
Yeah.
Should we just sell it on site? Somebody up there maybe wanted to purchase it?
Sounds good to me.
Somebody may buy it parts, you can
Yeah.
get in touch and talk to the guy
Okay,
that's
yeah, I was
storing it
looking
now.
at your email, I'll give him a call
Yeah.
and talk to him about it.
Good.
Okay.
We are doing an open house on the July 8th, if you guys are around and want to come out, it's open to the public.
Right.
We do a cookout every year and show our equipment off, so.
Thanks for that.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Got my email.
Yes, sir.
Come down, Bill.
All right. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, now, we have a public hearing for the ATV access on the Ridge Road in Concord.
Yeah, I want to give you a little introduction of what it is before we bring the public in, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think the public should be here to hear your introduction
Oh,
though.
absolutely.
So I'm just gonna,
I have some
Call that-
maps, I gave you printout of the maps, but I also have them loaded on the computer. But I just wanted to give you a little background on the
everyone-
area, and,
this will be,
you know, you're probably not real familiar with this, so I just want to give you a brief rundown. First page on the handouts I gave you is just a legend, and this is off the Moose Valley Riders ATV maps I picked up in Jimmy's Market. I did leave a full map up on your table, but I only brought one of those. So, we have the Moose Valley Riders trails in red, and other ATV clubs are in yellow. This is the wide view. You can see the Moose Valley Riders take care of a very large area. And we can kind of narrow this down to Concord. And these are the existing trails. I suspect one of the washouts is here from the club.
Just south of
Right here. Okay, so yeah, down on here, what's the name of that road anyway? I can't read it.
It's in the old silver mine.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's off the Emden Road. Is that Witham Brook?
Yeah, Witham Brook.
Witham Brook. That's where the big washout was, so they're having difficulty headed north over on this side. So they're looking to go north over, coming from Bingham across the bridge and up the Ridge Road. And that's the Ridge Road right here. Going from Pleasant Ridge down into Concord and down the Ridge Road to the bridge across the Kennebec. And I have some closer of that here. So this is the area from this point here, you know, up to this point. Actually, we actually are right to the line. That's the town line right here.
where's the bridge washout?
Bridge washout was
Just above Emden.
back up here. It was down in this area right here. Washout's down in this section.
Okay,
And that's where people were going up the side, and this was taking them all the way north into Pleasant Ridge. And with that bridge washed out, this whole section, they can't get into, or they can't go both ways. So they're looking to go up this side of the area to get to the trails that are north in Pleasant Ridge and points further north.
What's the status of the bridge repair?
According to Weyerhaeuser, they're hopeful they'll have it done end of this week. They're hopeful they'll have it done end of last week, with a piece of equipment broke down.
So, once the bridge is repaired, we don't need to do this, right?
Correct. My intention, my only intention is to have this as a, if this happens again, I mean, we've lost 4 weeks of the season. So the issue, the bigger issue to me is the lack of community-to-community connection, you know, where the local economy, Happy Horseshoe Campground, all the businesses in Kingfield, they're suffering from not having our traffic and vice versa. And I know, you know, this process obviously takes weeks. I mean, it's been 4 weeks since we've been able to meet, and then by the time approval and signage, we're another, 4 weeks, we're halfway through the summer. So my hope was to have a sort of approval in the basis that we don't sign it. We have no intention of opening it until it's needed.
well, we're having a public hearing now, so why don't, instead of asking questions, we'll listen to the public, see what they have to say. Is anybody wanted to speak on this matter? Sir, yes. Would you please stand and state your name?
I do Joe Boatour, I'm on the Kennebec River Road in Concord. I've had problems with ATV violators. They do 50 miles an hour down my road, which is not part of the trail. And they're trying to connect between the two trails of Bingham and Jackson Pond Road. And if you guys approve them to come across the bridge, then the access between both ends is only 1.25 miles. So I've got troubles now, so if you do give them a permit to go across, I believe I'm gonna see an increase in the violators. There's no easy way to enforce it. Despite the 9 signs that are on that road, they go right by me, every single one of them, and just keep on going, trying to get to the next connection point. So I'm reaching out saying, can you help? What can you do? This is gonna bring more problems to my neighborhood, and in response to the commissioner's request, how many homes are along that road there? There's 32 homes.
32,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's what I'm showing on the map right now, is his stretch of the road is south of the bridge, and there is no ATV allowed access. But there's a lot of violators that are using this stretch of road to get to the bridge to cross into Bingham. And it's not allowed, but it's very hard to stop.
Is there any other people who wish to speak to this?
I just have a question to that. Do you know if these are maybe your local, like, neighbors that have ATVs that are going to try to get to the trail system by violating?
I can answer that easily. Majority of them are from 201 Sports. They're the same exact vehicles that they rent at 201 Sports.
But that doesn't mean that there are. We don't send our customers that way.
Oh, I understand that, but you asked the question, and I'm telling you. I see them parked in front, I see the same colors and the same type of vehicles that are going by my house.
Sir?
2 things. I'd like to touch on that as a business owner, but first from the club perspective. So I am the trail master of Moose Alley Riders. I am also one of the 2 owners of 201 Power Sports. I believe that, I think enforcement becomes a little easier here because, again, what I'm asking for is if we have this one route to get to Kingfield from the town of Bingham, it's 42 miles. So without this potential reroute, that's always dead. So my belief is if we have such an access for a temporary time frame, obviously bridges and things will get fixed as time goes forward. We close that back down. In the meantime, while it's open, I feel like a warden service detail is not that tricky to accomplish for a short time frame. Now, that being said, the warden service, as you probably know, is stretched pretty thin, and they're in our area quite heavily at the moment, already anyway. In terms of the rental, and I'm not calling you a liar in any fashion, I'm just saying that we don't send our customers that direction. So if they are going down by Mr. Voter's place, they are crossing the Bingham Bridge to do so. They're not coming from the Jackson Pond Road, which I personally believe as the trail master is the bigger issue, because the Jackson Pond Road is an access road. So from the Burt Berry intersection with Jackson Pond, of course it's signed, and it does say that there's an access road dead end ahead at Route 16. What we find with ATVs with accesses that are dead ends, such as that, once they get there, they can see that the road's right there, that's how I get across, and I don't have to go 2 hours back around. Now, I'm not excusing the behavior, I'm just being practical. This is what a rider does. I don't make state policy. If I had my way, there would be no signs at that intersection indicating that you can take the Jackson Pond Road. The issue we have there is if we don't have that road signed as an access road, everybody that's on that road that has asked for that permission and they've had for years, now is no longer legally able to leave from their residence and get to the system. They now, as a taxpayer, have to load up trailer to one of the various parking lots. And that's not, a lot of those people, that's not why they bought that piece of property. So it is a double-edged sword. It's a very tough situation.
Go ahead.
I want to ask the sheriff a question. Did you see the video that they sent to us?
I have not seen that, no.
Okay. Are you going to show that video?
I was going to, I put it on my thumb drive, but this computer is not set up to read email. You know, it's attached to an email.
Well, it's a link, it's a link in the email. It's not attached to the email, it's a link to the email.
Oh, let me see that.
It's a link to a Google, so you
Well,
can,
my question would be, I want to know what you think about safety, because there isn't any shoulder on that road.
So I haven't driven that lately, so
No.
I can't speak to that directly. Our policy is that we don't chase ATVs. So that puts us, if the AT operator doesn't pull right over, puts us in a precarious situation. I hear both sides. I would actually like to go up there and see what the geographic area looks like.
Yeah.
well, in this video, the log truck blows right through the stop sign. At quite an extensive speed, from what it shows.
The video, like any other video, flattens the road considerably and doesn't give you any idea
Oh,
of
no,
the
right,
hills.
yeah.
And there is no shoulder. The road all slants to the woods.
Yeah,
Lot of,
If you had traffic coming both ways,
Yep.
someone's in trouble.
Well, I think if we, you know, in the proposal that this was accepted, the ATVs would have to be in the traffic lane with traffic, moving with traffic and potentially slowing traffic down to 25 miles an hour.
So everyone's inside, right? There's nobody out in the hall on this.
Yeah.
No, of course, so.
No, but everybody lives up here.
for some reason, this is not opening.
There you go. Open it there.
Sir, can I ask your name, Mr. 201 Sports?
Scott Newton.
Scott. So, can I ask just a question? It sounds like what we're doing here is not so much a temporary sort of expediency to deal with this bridge that's out, but you're looking at a more long-term comprehensive.
This is them following a truck down from Pleasant Ridge down to the end of the river, end of the Ridge Road. So right now we're at Pleasant Ridge, we're just crossing the town line here shortly.
there is language, so cover your ears.
Yes, there's a little
Like
lane.
4-letter words in this.
Joe, just a caveat for our listening public.
We're now in Concord, headed down. We're in Concord, headed down towards the bridge. Actually, the worst part of the road is in Pleasant Ridge. You've got some real twisties up there.
Realize how bad fucking drivers they were. Right here's one thing, you know, there's vehicles.
Notice the speed limit signs, 30 miles an hour.
And they were going 35 to 60, 50. I asked if she had clocked it. She reported back.
There's a number of residences there between the power line and the stop sign.
I have a map that has all the residents between the bridge and the Pleasant Ridge. There's only 7 houses that are actually on this road, most of them are seasonal.
I don't think you have to see the whole thing to see what's.
Now we're headed down towards the bridge. See the downgrade. Guardrails on one side and pretty much hillside on the other.
Yeah.
Right over the yellow line. Again.
Right down the middle of the fucking
I'm right down the other lane. There's no excuse for that. This road's big enough.
And there's the stop
Close it.
sign.
Blue, the stop sign.
all the way through.
Middle of the road again.
So that was.
Yeah, I wasn't in the wrong stop, that was
And
closer.
did someone say that the ATVs will be driving with the traffic?
Correct. They would be in the traffic lane.
And that's pretty fast for ATV, if keeping up with that.
It's
Well,
known,
that's the point. Why is enforcement not being done about that? You know, that's kind of what we're getting.
Right.
ATVs a lot of times, and I don't like this idea, I'll just tell you that, this is a personal opinion. I think the ATVs should travel the same speed. If they're in the travel lane, they should be going the same speed as the highway traffic. However, most of the time, we're required to attempt to get them to go 25 miles an hour. Now, we all know there is no speed limit enforceable for ATVs and snowmobiles in the state of Maine. However, when you are in a public way, if I'm not mistaken, they are responsible to follow rules of the road. So though I may put up 25, that gives them the ability for 35 legally?
You're right, so they have to abide by the rules of the road. If the towns give them access, they can go with the flow of traffic.
Yeah. So I had first gone to the selectmen in Pleasant Ridge to find out, you know, if I had their support at all in the first place, otherwise I didn't want to waste your time. As far as I know, they wrote a letter of support. Greenville has been sort of an advocate in proving that, and it's something that seems to be happening across the state, that ATVs, if they are in the travel lane doing the 25 to 35 miles an hour, because we're not supposed to be on most highways above 35, it does actually slow the violators down. Now, whether or not that's going to happen, I can't tell you that. You know, I would like to think it does because of the S-turns. You know, I think that you're gonna find that they are gonna have to go slower to navigate and negotiate those turns, which is gonna force your logging trucks, your pontoon boats, your fishing boats, you know, all these other guys that are up recreating in the Pleasant Ridge, boat township areas.
But can I, just to finish my question?
Sure.
So, you know, this bridge thing sounds like kind of not what we're really concerned about. What you're suggesting is you've got a business and you're very involved with this club and you want to connect Bingham to this whole area on the other side of the river more directly than is currently available by having to go all the way down to Solon to cross the river. Is that really what this was?
No. This has nothing to do with my business whatsoever. This
Okay, well, put aside your business, but this is not, you're saying that even if this bridge was repaired, you'd still be asking for this because it just sort of makes sense to make this connection and to get over to Kingfield quicker and all that. Is that what you're saying?
All I'm asking for is if we had another situation like came up this spring, where just, this bridge was such a magnitude of size, we don't have contractors with equipment big enough for that, so we have to find those contractors. This was an $8,000 fix, so it was kind of a, how do we find them, who's gonna do it, when's it gonna get done, we're waiting on everybody else, versus something I can hire a contractor for and have done in a week's time. This type of a problem is not within my capabilities. So I am looking for a temporary permission. I have no intentions on signing that road to open it. It would be a lot more direct. I think it would be better for the economy for the different communities, but that's not what I'm after. I'm after only as a solution to, in that, I guess it would probably be 17-mile stretch from the Solon Dam to the Spruce Pond Road, give or take 17, 20-mile stretch. If there's an issue along there, I have no way around that whatsoever except for this alternative. The only other alternative in this particular situation was if we went down the East Shore Road of Mendon Pond, hit the Crosstown Road, traveled up that to the West Shore Road, and I'm around this one bridge. But that's the one bridge. If there's another issue north of that or south of that back towards the Endon Road, we have no way around it.
It's also a lot of warehouser land, and when they go in and log an area, they shut us down, so we don't have access anymore, so we're always looking for a backup route in the event that that happens, to be able to connect with these.
So slightly different but similar area scenario this year. The Spruce Pond Road from Pleasant Ridge to Lexington, which is where, I'm gonna think of the intersection number, that it then heads due west from Pleasant Ridge. warehouse, or, yeah, W3.
Right, I see it.
So at W3, they are logging in there now. So as of right now, even if you were to approve this, we can still only connect the communities on Saturdays and Sundays due to this operation. So I've searched around that issue as well, and I've just run into back doors where I can't get through, one way or another. Whether it be by cost or landowner permission or what have you, I can't get around just the cut, which is only in there about 2 miles. But I have no way to get around it to make that a 7-day-a-week thing. So just as one example, the community of Lexington, they do the chicken barbecue for the snowmobile club. It's a big fundraiser for them. They do it twice a year, once Memorial, once Labor Day. I mean, they lost out on a tremendous amount of traffic this particular year, this first one, because we didn't have the connections. I believe Kingfield was able to get there. And we did have our club opted to trailer up to Pleasant Ridge, unload there, which there's very limited parking, and I can see problems with that as we go forward. So that our club was able to do a ride and support them, but, it was 6 or 7 people versus 15, 20, just from our club.
So, I guess to get back to the original point of the public hearing is access on the Ridge Road in Concord. Sounds to me as if the bridge could be repaired in the next week or so, and if I understand you correctly, what you were looking to do is sort of put the ducks in a row for access on the Ridge Road in case something like this happens in the future, instead of this long drawn-out process. That's what you're looking for today?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm certainly willing to contingency, if I need to contact David or one of the commissioners and say, hey, or, maybe I can do it through Brian at the state's office and say, listen, we have this connection problem, we're in that same boat, can we have the green light to go ahead and, I assume we can make that happen in a 48-hour window, which gives me a couple of days to go get it signed appropriately before a weekend comes, kind of thing.
Are there similar arrangements in other places in the state that you're aware of where you have,
I'm not. Do you have anything like that?
who's the gentleman you're looking at?
I mean,
Not on DOT or
Right.
county related.
Can I ask who
they're
are you,
not
sir?
ongoing. My name's Brian Bronson from Bureau of Parks and Land. I
Oh.
run the ETV program. We've have scenarios where MDOT has opened and Aroostook County's done the same thing for like the season to get around a harvest or a bridge repair or something like that. And then it goes back, because ideally we want them off the roads and more on trails. Those, once they've been done once, if they work, are more easily revisited if they need to be done again. But there's nothing that I can think of where it's just sort of in a, we can open it if we need to again, based on the previous decision. At the time, obviously, when this all happened, we came because we were trying to get the trail open for Memorial Day weekend, which didn't happen, obviously, but, so I have since cut a deal with Weyerhaeuser to pay for the bridge repair, which is why it's being done, ahead of their normal schedule, otherwise they weren't gonna be in there until this fall. We cut that deal last week because we didn't know where this was going. And once they were willing to do that, we moved ahead with that. But that conversation obviously has led to this conversation of, does it make sense to use this road or not? And just getting some direction on how people feel on that will give direction in the future. It's unfortunate that the access, because of the lay of land, is, the options to get connections between Bingham and Kingfield are limited.
Is there any further comments?
I have one more.
I'll have a gentleman.
Sorry.
I'd like to add what I see. I live right there. The recent 3-day weekend. Right in front of my house, log truck doing 50 miles plus, which is a 45 35 zone from my house. ATV following them, booting it like hell. Dump truck behind that one, 2 more ATV behind that, a couple of cars, and then 3 more ATVs. They're all going like hell, doing 50 miles an hour or better. So there's a problem that exists there now. I don't want to see it increased. Just leave it alone. And yeah, I love enforcement, but I also know you can't park somebody there all the time just to go after an ATV violator. So my suggestion is just leave things alone. It's already a problem now. Don't add to it.
Well, one of the important aspects of this is, do you have the insurance that will indemnify us from any damages?
As far as,
Everything. Your insurance covers the county and indemnifies us from any lawsuits, any damages.
Exactly what I wanted to ask.
No, you're covered under Maine tort claims on public roads, so private insurance doesn't come into play in that scenario. That's
That's my
the
question,
case
'cause I think-
statewide. Same thing with MDOT and everybody else, because the trails are insured, but the insurance on trails does not apply on public roads because public roads are covered under Maine tort claim.
Scott?
That was my next question and point exactly, is that this seems like it could be a liability to the county if something should happen.
I think so too,
So, that's just,
irrespective of the tort claim.
Well, I think, I've forgotten now, I'm sorry, sir. No,
Brian,
Brian, the main tort claims would mean that if somebody's injured on the River Road in an ATV accident, they can sue the truck in front of them and the truck behind them, but they can't sue the county for approving the road as an ATV access road under the main tort claim. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's what-
Yeah, the county's not gonna be liable any more than you are if they crashed in a car.
But I have a question, and that is, cars have been around a lot longer than ATVs, but I assume there's a reason why ATVs are not permitted on every single public way in the same way that automobiles are. Isn't that right?
Yeah, the reality is they're an off-road vehicle.
They're not as safe as a
They're
car?
not registered for, they're not registered as a motor vehicle to be
Yeah.
used on the road. There was a time, you may recall, the sheriff may recall, they actually did allow them to be registered if they were.
Had the headlights.
Had the lights
Right,
and the-
well, and different tires and a variety of things, but actually, the Maine State Police got that repealed quite a few years ago, so you can't register them for the road anymore.
Would you work for the state, so would the Department of Transportation, do they ever assess a road for safety purposes?
They assess their roads, like 201's open, right?
Yeah.
Right now, they send an engineer out to assess that and make a decision whether or not they open roads.
Whether it's safe to run ATVs on that road? They make that assessment.
For them, yes.
So no one's
I don't know that
made,
they've ever done that for the county or the town, but they do it for their own road. Because MDOT makes the decision to open and close roads as access routes.
Yeah.
And they have criteria they follow when they make that assessment.
where's the criteria here? Should we look at the same things? Is that,
Well, that's an option you certainly have.
we're talking about what sort of situation do we want to create in the acknowledged absence of law enforcement? We all agree you can't have a cruiser out there 24/7. So what can we put in place to ensure public safety, really, and safety on that road? So I'd be interested to see
Certainly
what.
could look at what they look at and make a decision. Truthfully, I don't know what the speed limit is up through there. My guess is if it's 35, they might approve it if they had owned it. If it's 45, I would guarantee you they would.
I think they'd be concerned about the lack of breakdown lane,
Yeah, they
the
generally-
hills, the blind corners, and
Right.
the trailer traffic, the logging traffic.
If you look at, like, in Bayham, and there's places the access route is approved and you're supposed to be in the shoulder,
Yeah,
There's
there's
other
no,
places it's
yeah.
approved and you're not supposed to be in the shoulder, you're supposed to be in the traffic lane, because they look at it and assess it that way. But if you're in the traffic lane, the faster it is, the more concerns they have, that's the bottom line. I can't speak for them, but that's the criteria they look at.
well, I wonder
They
what,
have opened 55-mile-an-hour roads in places, but they have a 6-foot wide paved shoulder. No
Yeah.
offense.
So,
So I have a question. So looking at the map, and there's, seems to be more conversation, more exploration to do when it comes to this. But looking at the map, is there a reason why the power line corridor cannot be used as opposed to the Ridge Road? If you were to use the power line, looking at the map, the power line corridor, you would eliminate the use of the Ridge Road by probably 9/10 of that length. And then at that point in time, you might have to jump on the Ridge Road for a mile or so. Is there any reason why that can't be explored?
I would assume it's not environmentally sound. It is incredibly steep and there are a couple of wet sections. So if you were to cross the Bingham Bridge, you'd have to take a left towards Mr. Booter's place, have access through private to get out to the pole line, and then you're probably 30% grade up over that.
Yeah, it's pretty steep.
It's pretty steep. When you come down on the other side, the Fletcher Road, not nearly as bad, that's very manageable. When you cross the Fletcher Road, you drop down into a wet hole, and then you're probably a much shorter 30% incline, before you would then taper out and head back down to Pleasant, yeah.
So it's safer than that road.
But there's no logging trucks on that road, on that corridor,
Yeah.
the power line corridor.
No, I hear you.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if
So-
CMP isn't opposed to granting access, I just don't know if we can with DEP, because I mean, everything we do is based on DEP's regulations.
Right.
I don't
Right.
think we would ever get approval for such, and if we did, you're probably talking way more than Brian wants to give me.
For myself, I would like to hear a definite no before I even consider ATVs on the paved road.
Who makes that decision, you or?
Well, I mean, it would have to be looked at, and then CMP as landowner and any other landowner would have to weigh in, and then, DEP as well, so multiple.
Right.
It would have to be looked at, and, and then said, all right, we're gonna propose this, and then go through that process.
And that seems like a reasonable thing to do at this point in time.
It does.
The bridge is gonna be repaired in the near future.
Right.
That is a much safer, possibly viable option, and then use the Ridge Road for that very northern piece of a mile or something like that.
I have a question, it's okay. At one point in time, in the beginning of my taking over the Trailmaster, or being handed it, I had looked into this, and at the time, the county was more concerned with the S-turns, which is actually in Pleasant Ridge. Which I did not know that until this last go-around, when Pleasant Ridge said, well, that's actually our call there, but they may be stopping you from getting to that point, because they're just as concerned. Whereas they expressed concern, but they have told me that they don't have the issues. They don't feel that people have been respectful and ride on the correct side of the road. Now, I have since heard from some of the residents that are the road commissioner's daughter being one of them, that that's not accurate, but that's what I heard from the selectmen.
so I want to just jump back to Mr. Vonter's concerns. And it's helpful to have these maps, because it sort of brings it into focus. It seems that as soon as I think it's fair to say that Mr. Vonter's concern is as soon as it's legal to cross the bridge in Bingham, you're going to get a high probability of traffic going south in addition to traffic going north. And the reason they're going to do that is because they're going to get out their ATV map and see if that they want to get down the Jackson Pond Road. And you say that this is a road that should be kept open because there are people that use ATVs on it. I'm sort of curious, how far up that road do you have to go before you get to your first ATV user?
From Route 16?
Yeah,
less than a quarter of a mile.
well, maybe it would make sense to shut off ATV access further up the road as much as we could, which would reduce the sort of invitation, so to speak, that is created by having the access road end on Route 16 and make it so tempting to zip over to the bridge.
I would love to agree with you, Sarah, but to defend Mr. Gorder, I don't think it would make a difference, to be totally honest.
He would just come down and, okay.
I know, because, you know, a lot of these have GPS now too.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of people that don't know how to read a map, it's even easier, I mean, you can measure the distance. I mean, every one of our rental vehicles, for example, has a GPS. We actually put a curated ride.
In
where to go, but we're rental.
in the ATV world, do they have bigger, better signs that say, do not go beyond this point under any set of circumstances?
We pay for them. I was just installing some before the meeting, actually on Route 201, because we're having, like Brian was mentioning, you know, when you're coming into town from the south, you are in the breakdown lane because it's a 55-mile-an-hour zone. And once you hit the crossing just before our shop, you're supposed to then hop on the old rail section north, or I should say east of 201, come back out at the ice cream shop hardware store, and then you were supposed to be in the travel lane in the 25-mile-an-hour zone. So we bought 2x3 signs with signboard that are just white, big red letters, 3 words, ATVs traffic lane, ATVs breakdown lane, just to really get the point across.
I don't know if that helped Mr. Vonter, but,
What I could add is the folks in the Yellow Pond, who are good people, and they got ATVs. When you drive down Jackson Pond Road and you hit the dead end intersection of Route 16, there's a sign right there that says End Trail. Well, the Yellow Pond owns both sides of that road. That End Trail sign is in their driveway. They came home one day and there's the trail sign in, and it had already been approved by the commissioners. So it's like, this just don't seem fair here. And some folks do come down, look at the sign, just bolt right through it and go down past my house. Others, according to the owners of the farm, tell me, people stop there, they'll have their lunch, they'll throw their trash on the ground in his driveway, and he's gotta go clean up the mess. Just, it doesn't look right having an ATV and trail sign at your driveway. And but that's what we got, that's what was previously approved. And there's no other access to go anywhere on Jackson Pond Road. It's probably 2.5 miles long. It intersects up at the other end, but that whole 2.5 miles, there's no place to go. You can ride the road all the way down, but you get to the dead end.
could we approve it for, you know, we see signs in Cornville like this, smaller roads, local traffic only. Do they do that in ATV land?
We did that in Rockwood. We did the Maynard Road, which is a dead end, period. You go down to Maynard Road, there's no place to go after that, which is different here because you've got Route 16. Route 16 right in front of you to go left on. In Rockwood, we do have Maynard Road, which is much more residential than what we're talking about now. And that is for local residents only, so they can leave where their building is, house or camp, whichever it is, and access the trail route.
Well, it seems to me that ought to be what the Jackson Pond Road is for. It's local traffic only.
Yes, it should be local traffic only.
Well, I think we ought to do that.
Can you do that, though, where you have the rentals?
No, not about the rental, it's more about the resident.
Yeah, we
You know,
just
the
need
residents
to-
on Jackson Pond Road,
Yeah.
are they legally allowed to still, and I guess this would maybe be a question for Dale and Brian, are they legally able without signage, aside from a private residence access, are they legally able to operate an ATV on that road if we don't have ATV signs? I don't believe that's the
We would
case.
just have
Unless
to,
it's been approved.
we would have to
The
add
state.
local use only.
I would love to remove it from the map, personally. That's my personal feeling. I'd love to get rid of it off the map, because that's what's causing the problem for him, as far as I'm
Well,
concerned.
maybe we ought to have an agenda item for consideration or next, we don't want to do it willy-nilly, but it seems to me the idea of addressing the Jackson Pond Road situation by decommissioning it as a full ATV road and making it local, maybe not at the corner of the,
Yeah, we can
But-
take it off the map.
take it off the map.
As long as the game wardens and the sheriff knows local people are allowed to use it, maybe that would work.
You can take it off the map. And
He's not
remove
chasing
the
them either
sign
way.
Intersection, so the public's not.
I think it would
see
help.
I don't think it's gonna help at all.
Or, you know, leave the next one up.
They don't
and
put
put
signs
One
up.
sign- Scott,
only on it.
one
And it would be
conversation.
legal. And I'm sure if everybody was knowledge of what you were doing, it wouldn't be an enforcement issue.
Okay, that sounds like a good option for part of Joe's problem.
I think it would help. I mean, it wouldn't be perfect, but it would help.
Right. It's not perfect, but I think it would be an improvement. If this road is not highlighted in red on maps, you know,
No.
hopefully they won't go on it.
And I'm sure it will take a year or so for people that have done it for years are gonna have to get used to it. And I think if we have it unsigned at that intersection, I think that does help minimize it, at least start the process.
Yep.
Because like I said, I would love to get rid of it. I think it's completely useless. What I don't want to do is have members of the club, they're on that road, come back at the club and go, well, why'd you do that? You know, it's been there since long before my
Yeah.
wife and I ever were involved in the club.
Been
So-
roughly 4 years.
It's been there longer than 4 years, actually. It's just never been on necessarily the map. I haven't been on the map because when I took over, I felt like if a trail exists, the public needs to know where these things go because there are safety issues. There's hypothermia, I'm lost, I have head injury on my machine. I mean, I do rentals, I see this all the time, where people need to know where they are. And we constantly, every year, we try to improve the little qualities of the map for safety reasons.
Well, you print the map, right?
I don't print it, but yes, I work with the printer, yeah. Yeah.
And we're actively working right now with, Polaris has the biggest electronic app because it's free. So we're trying to work with them, with the state and the landowners to actually get them to take our data and update it every time we update it, which would make this a lot easier all the way along because it would be cleaner. Because right now what's happening is people are adding trails but not eliminating trails as we close them, and they're still out there on maps, so people try to follow them. And that's what we're trying to fix.
So in this situation, do we assume the responsibility of contacting the residents on that road and informing them of whatever the final decision is as far as, okay, because you have an ATV and you're a resident on the road, you have access on the road even though it's not a trail anymore?
Well,
The people in this room understand it, but outside of this, they're not.
I think if you sign it local traffic only, because what says somebody doesn't have a nephew, somebody that lives on that road doesn't have a nephew that comes to visit by his ATV. It still should be open, but some sort of signage to know that it doesn't go beyond that road. And I don't really know how you do that, but, you know, if it's open for the people that live there, it should also be open for people that want to go visit people.
Yeah, that's something implicit, I think. I mean, I don't know how fine you have to slice it. I think just saying local traffic only may assist in the problem, fixing it. It's not
Well,
right.
and to Brian's suggestion, that intersection on the Burtberry Jackson Pond Road, if you pull onto the Jackson Pond Road 200 feet, 100 feet, there's a sharp 90-degree turn. So to his idea, if we just remove all the signage indicating that Jackson Pond Road is usable, and then put a local traffic only around the corner, there's really gonna be no reason for anybody to know that they can go that way until they've rounded the corner.
Yeah.
Because again, they're a resident.
I don't,
Well, that's not why we're here today.
I don't think it's a viable solution because I think violators are gonna be violators regardless, so,
So there's that.
Doesn't hurt anything to do it.
you know, do it, but it's not,
If we take it off the map, of both electronically and paper, when these people stop them, they're not gonna be able to go, it's on the map.
Right.
That's what happens right now, which makes it impossible to enforce, because they're following a map. So if we take it off that map, which I think is what we need to do, then that excuse at least is gone. Because it's not, you know, you mentioned we take it off the trail map, which is what we're doing, but access routes aren't trails, they're access routes. And there's a big difference. The law is different. You know, a kid at 10 with a adult supervision and a safety course can cross the road, right down the road up to 1,500 feet from trail to trail. But that kid can't legally ride an access road until they're 16.
Well, I'd like to apologize for talking about the Jackson Pond Road, because that's not why we're here. So, but I do think we ought to do something about it later, soon, and,
Well, we can put it on the agenda for next.
yeah, but where do we go? Let's get back to, I'm just asking that we,
Well, is there any further discussion? Any further members of the public who wish to have anything to say?
I'll add, I'm okay with one or two ATVs that are respectable people that go up and down the road. I don't have any problem at all with them. The problem is when there's multiple and they're all doing 50 miles an hour in between traffic.
Right, your road is not even designated anything. If I understand, your road is not designated for
Correct.
anything for ATV.
No, it's 45 miles an hour in front of my house.
Yeah.
And no ATV
Okay, well, I'm going to declare this, the public hearing over. And our new agenda items, commissioners only.
I'm good. All set?
Okay. Minutes, resolution 23-134 to accept the minutes of June 7th, 2023.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Finance reporting.
No big changes, still haven't paid 400,000 plus.
Okay, did you have said you had a question about something in the finance?
nope, I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
Well, things are not as quite as rosy as we thought they were last meeting, because we're in the registry of deeds.
More like a daisy.
Oh, yeah, when it comes to registry of deeds, it looks like we're gonna be close to break even.
Okay,
So
Better than-
we was trying, last meeting, we thought we had roughly 200,000 coming in, came out to be 30,000, so a little bit.
easy come, easy go.
Oh, yeah. Again.
All right, okay. Administrator report.
I sent you all that abatement requests for you all just to review. Just know that's coming up.
Yep. And department heads, Pavel?
So, July 6th, we have like an initial meeting for the beat jail project for the cameras and access control upgrades. So hopefully that's gonna go smoothly. So we're working on the network upgrades together with that project. There's like multiple projects for like stations upgrades, server upgrades, and of course, like I mentioned, like every meeting about the cybersecurity. So we're constantly working on that. It's needed. So that's what I have.
How was your trip to Penobscot?
It was good, actually. It was nice to see, like, the jail, so, because we're gonna get similar system to theirs, so it was good, actually.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it was good.
Anything further? You good?
Yeah,
Any more?
yeah.
Okay, are there any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sheriff?
Patrol had 512 calls for service last week.
Wow.
We did get 4 vehicles in, new vehicles, so we're going to start that process of getting them lettered and outfitted. All the gear, know that all our deputies now have breaching tools, high-level helmets and vests in case we have an active shooter for their response. That was about a $50,000 project. It was all outside the $2,000 that was from the TIF. It was all done through grant money, so that project is completed.
Can you explain what a breaching tool is?
Some of the research or debriefings that some of the school shootings, like the last one in one in Uvalde, Texas, they couldn't get in. So each and I can bring the kid in, but all deputies now carry a little sledgehammer, a Pelican tool and bolt cutters.
We know like in the University of Virginia, before the shooter went in, he bolted all the doors that stopped,
Okay.
chained the doors before so that the officers couldn't get in. So they now have the gear, helmet, high-end vest, and the breaching tools. And if you want me to bring in a kit.
No, that's okay. I get
Show and tell.
I just offered.
Show and tell.
No, I didn't know what that was. It sounded like that.
Conversations are still going on with the feds, and I can explain that a little later with the federal borders. There is a new law now that all officers are obligated to carry Narcan in their car. We are in compliance with that. All our deputies presently carry Narcan. We use it on a regular basis, and we have Narcan inside the jail.
We've been doing that for a while.
We've been doing that for a while.
And you were the first sheriff, weren't you, to instigate that?
I think so.
Yeah. And we thank you. Anything further?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Pike? Good. Corey?
We're at 130 inmates in the facility today. We've been averaging 120, so we're a little beyond that. We currently have 9 vacancies, CO vacancies, 2 in a queue. We're really not seeing a heavy applicant pool at this point. So we have some career fairs coming up that we're going to be participating in, and just continue to refresh R&D postings and get the word out. So very busy week with court. Other than that, it's day-to-day operation.
Okay, thank you. Laura?
The system that we had put in, the new software, the update, we're still working on our bugs, and I apologize profusely for the misinformation from the last meeting. That was due to the daily report being fixed, but that didn't continue into the other reports that get pulled in. So they're all connected. So when I did the end of month, it hadn't been changed where it needed to be. And I woke up in the middle of the night and said, that's not right. Something's very wrong. So I looked into it first thing the next morning and I got it corrected. So I apologize for that.
Thank you.
Otherwise than that, we're going steady.
Very good. Thank you. Chris? You?
The state received a $30 million federal grant for broadband last Friday. That includes the Route 201 corridor. So I believe that'll tap into the 3-ring binder here in town. And we'll run to the Canadian border. So that's the middle mile of long haul fiber. We really need to connect the communities up and down 201. And so with that federal money coming in, we still have access to the state funds for state grants for local providers. So, we met with the state, provided letters of support for that. And 9 weeks after the potential award, they finally announced it last Friday. So, which is pretty. Talked to our consultant this afternoon. Unfortunately, it's probably going to be 18 months before these communities see anything. It might be expedited, but you're looking at I think 4,000 to 5,000 properties of the fiber at some point by the next rule. And that's been really difficult to find any interest in. You'll go 5 or 6 miles between large tracts of neighborhoods and towns, and then after the forks, much longer. So, good news.
Yeah. All right. And I guess that's it for our department heads. Unfinished business, none. New business, resolution 23-135, to accept the full-time resignation of Craig Johnson as court security, but to maintain him as a reserve deputy for the Somerset Sheriff's Department.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
Well, I have a question, the sheriff, I could put you on the hot seat a little bit. Craig is the man that does court security, is really the only person, I mean, he's not the only court security person you have, but he's the only one that we can get to run the desk out front, is that?
So the commissioners, the last budget, did away, that position was originally the county building security deputy. The commissioners did away with that position. We were able to get, we were able to get another position through the courts, through the state, through the court security, so we moved him over to that position. Then Winslow PD had an opening, and they pay probably about 3 times more than a court security officer, so that's where Deputy Johnson is heading.
But does this leave you trying to hire another court security officer?
Right, so right now I have a sergeant's position of court security, and I have 2 full-time positions that are now vacant in the court security.
So here's my hot seat question. When does it make sense just to tell the court to go get their own security? Because we don't make any money on it. You have a hard time, you do very well at this, but we have a continuing problem finding people to fill corrections positions and deputy positions. Why are we giving ourselves this additional hiring burden when the state is providing court security in 14 of the other, of the 16 counties? Why don't we just do it too? I guess that's why.
So, our Somerset County and Lincoln County are the remaining counties that provide court security. I guess it becomes a philosophical question of what the county wants to keep acquiescing to or giving to the state. Would it be simpler to do that? Probably, though they are having hiring problems also. But that's a different conversation. But it's really, I'm not willing to relinquish any authority to the state. The state, they're not good partners on many levels. And that's a conversation.
Yeah.
I get it's philosophical, and I'm not willing to surrender that to the state.
Okay. You are one of the last holdouts, I guess, on this issue.
Well, one of 2.
Well, I know, because I used to travel all the courts of the state, and all the judicial marshals, they all work for the state, and you don't see anybody in Brown.
And talking to my colleagues, and reflecting on their decision to do that, some wish that they had not.
Okay.
Just because of some of the state mandates that are eventually forced upon you. So maybe when I'm gone, there'll be someone who thinks different.
All right, I just had to ask that question.
No, it's a good question. It's an excellent question.
Well, we'll miss Craig, because it's it's always good to say hi.
I wish we paid more, so he wouldn't have been tempted to do that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
I just have one thing. I am in communication with Ted Ross, the chief. I've made a proposal that whatever the state pays their judicial marshals, we should be compensating our judicial marshals at that same rate for equity. So those are discussions that are going on.
Are they badly out of whack at the
Yes.
present? Oh,
I feel they are.
okay.
Which way? Ours are out of whack or theirs are out of whack?
Well, so you have to define out of whack. But, we do not, our judicial marshals are not compensated at the same rate as a state judicial marshal. Though they do exactly the same job.
Yeah.
And go to the same training.
So, Another reason to consider the state paying for it.
Does that throw the pay scale for your other county employees at the jail out of whack again if the court officers get, does it?
No, it's a different job
Okay.
classification. Different job classifications are compensated at different rates.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Resolution 23-136 to accept the full-time resignation of Brian Turner as correction officer for the Somerset County Jail.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, resolution 23-137 to accept the resignation of Laura Price as the elected registrar of deeds.
So move.
Second.
Any kind of discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Resolution 23-138 to change the elected position of Register of Deeds to appointed Register of Deeds by submitting the following question to the voters of Somerset County on the November 7th, 2023 ballot. Shall the position of an elected Registrar of Deeds be abolished and replaced with a Register of Deeds appointed by the Board of Commissioners?
So move.
Second?
I'll second it, and I move to amend it a little bit. Because I don't think technically it's the registrar of deeds. I think it is the register of deeds, so that should say register, not registrar.
This is just the Latin. This is just the Latin. No. You're right. That was my question too.
Yeah, it's register.
Whichever is correct, we will use.
Okay. Well, you know, it's.
Friendly amendment, accepted.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, so go. Capital reserve expenditures, unorganized territory. Resolution 23-139 to approve temporary ATV use of Ridge Road in Concord. Should we table that for the next session so we can talk about the Jackson Road too?
I would move that we table it.
Second?
We're gonna run into, oh, we gotta second that. Okay, I'll second that, and then we can talk.
Don't think there's a discussion on a table, but I'll let you talk about it.
If we put this off, it'll be a moot point as far as what
far
they
as-
need for now, right?
Well, the bridge is gonna be done end of the week, they said, or next week.
Roughly, yeah.
So, yeah.
So keep it on the table, see if the bridge is actually done, and
Yeah.
at that point in
So
time,
we'll just pick it up next.
we can vote it down
In our
because
next,
it's not necessary.
meeting.
Yeah, I agree.
So the other thing I was thinking is if they get prolonged and the bridge got longer, is that I think Commissioner Stecker's idea of having an affirmative no from the corridor situation would be a good idea, because I do think that's a great alternative.
I like that idea too.
Bringing that up.
I think it'd be useful to get a hold of this DOT highway criteria for ATV use on roads, because
Yeah.
I doubt they probably would never, ever agree to conduct an assessment for us as.
Oh, probably not, but that's why we'll have, if we table this, we'll have 2
Yeah.
weeks to suss that all out for
Okay.
both roads. Any further discussion or comments? All in favor? Okay, tabled. Resolution 23-140 to approve out of the Community Benefit Fund a $15,000 grant for Main Street Fitness.
So move.
Second, yeah.
Okay. Move to say discussion?
Yeah.
Is
I'm just-
member of the public.
I kind of have issues with doing this with a company that would be an LLC for profit. And it's rolling effect to others wanting the same thing. We're putting ourselves in a situation where we're going to be doing this all the time. I think business set up right should be able to gain the profit they need to hold and keep the business open if they're an LLC.
This is a grant application.
Well, no, but I just don't think it's in the best interest of the commissioners to do this for a business like that.
And, I'm sorry, you are?
Hi, I'm Brittany Fossa, the owner of Main Street Fitness. And so I just kind of wanted to go over some details of the gym. I understand it isn't for-profit. I've looked into considering doing a nonprofit. That would take quite a long time. It's a pretty extensive application. But I did kind of want to go over some details with you guys regarding the gym. We had a gym in Bingham a few years back. We had a total of 35 members. I did create a cash flow projection for you guys, so you can see that this is for profit, but the profit is very, very, very slim. I'm putting a lot more money into the equipment, into the rent. I'm just looking for something for the community. As you guys know, the closest gym is in Skowhegan, and the community really, we're needing a gym. We're needing a facility for the kids, for the community members, somewhere to work out. This is not, for me, this is not for profit. It's just opening a gym for the community members. So I don't know if you want to take a look at the cash flow projection, but I can give that to you if you guys would like.
We should give it to Leanne, she can.
Yeah. I have, I've been coaching. I'm the athletic director in Bingham for Valley High School, and I've been coaching there since 2016. Everything's volunteer except the athletic director position. And everything we do in the community is pretty much volunteer based. Our Bingham Rec Department, we get a stipend every year, and same thing, I'm the rec director for that, and it's all volunteer based. So I invested a lot of my own money into the gym, so if I could get a grant, that would be great. But we definitely need something like this in the town.
Can you pass that out so we can look at it?
Here, can I ask her a question?
Yeah, please.
Would you consider taking silver sneakers for the senior citizens?
I'm not familiar with that.
It's through a WellCare program, or you're in the WellCare program, they give you free access to gym. I suppose the gym owners get reimbursed something.
Yeah, I could definitely look into that. I've researched for quite a few months trying to find certain programs. I've even considered going through the Bingham Rec Department, but when I talked to the selectman, he is completely against doing it for a nonprofit. He said there's just too many regulations, so if there's programs that I could look into, I'd absolutely be open to it.
I know Miller Fitness has it, and I think Somerset Sports has the same thing.
Yeah.
You could maybe inquire through them.
Absolutely, and I did actually reach out to the school district as well to see if that's something that they would be willing to do. The biggest expenses you can see there is just the rent. I pay $1,000 a month. And I do have a home equity loan that I took out for the equipment. So that is a 3-year loan, and that's what I've been paying monthly. So those are my two biggest costs. So what I was proposing to the school is having a student and staff discount, basically. So all students and staff members can go, and then they would possibly just reimburse for the rent. Like I said, I'm not looking to make money, I'm just looking to pay the bills. So the school district, that's something that they're gonna look towards in November, but right now, they just put it to the table.
David, just to add to what Commissioner Johnson was saying, those are Medicare Advantage programs. The Silver Slippers is through WellCare. So Martins Point, United Health, these other Advantage programs would probably be able to provide you with extra income by allowing that type of activity. And again, the other people can help you with that.
I've been working with Curtis Snow quite a bit, because he's from Bingham, obviously. He didn't want to invest into something because he didn't see a huge return on it, but he's been really helpful with guidance, so I'll reach out to him and ask.
John?
David, how much money do we have available in the community benefit fund?
I believe around 400,000.
And how much do we get each year in that? Is it?
330, about.
So, the question for you, I know it's a long process to become a 501c3 organization to which people can give money on a tax-free basis, but it takes a very short amount of time to become a nonprofit. But it does require a board of directors and an executive, certain rules, but
Right.
it's just a filing fee in Augusta, basically.
Right.
And I know Somerset Sports and Fitness they seem to be a wholly owned subsidiary of the hospital at the present time.
Right.
Is it possible that you could associate or affiliate with the Bingham Health Center or the school system or some other typical nonprofit as part of their community health programs?
I'm not sure, I'll be honest, I've reached out to the school district, I didn't get very many answers there. I did reach out to Kelly at Somerset Sports and Fitness, because I do know that they contract for the hospital. So that was something that I was willing to explore as well. I didn't get very many answers there either, so it's just kind of the runaround right now. I've been reaching out to the resources, but I'm just not getting much back. I'm getting a lot of no's. So I can continue, but in the meantime, I'd like to get it open and go from there.
How many subscribers do you have now?
It's not open currently. I was looking for July 1st for the grand opening. I based that off of 60 members. Like I said before, the gym before was 35 members, but the gym owner at that time, she didn't have marketing. A lot of people didn't know about it. And the facility is going to be 24 hours. I do have insurance on it. So I'm hoping that will gather a lot more people. But those projections are just based off of, I tried to double it from what the previous gym had.
David?
I just wanted to correct, the amount we have in community benefit is $437,000.
Oh, thank you. Any further discussion?
Well,
Joel?
Put Christian on the spot for a minute. You offer low-interest loans through economic development. Is there, so I know there are zero-interest loans out there. It's not something that you provide. I would be more comfortable with the idea of, split the 15 grand in half. If we could provide her with $7,500 to get going, and if she could get a interest-free loan, I don't know if that's even doable, is to move the other half of the 15 grand from this fund into your organization so you could provide an interest-free loan. Is that even imaginable?
We administer $850,000 on behalf of the county now. And Patrick can take that back if he wants. We just do it all the time, so it's easier for us to add some loans, but really just to help the county out in terms of reporting and personnel time. So we definitely entertain that. I believe this project, Bingham has great athletes, and they've just never had good facilities, so it's kind of amazing they pump out these athletes. I read a stat last week that the average commute for Bingham residents is 45 minutes. If they get home and want to go to the gym, it's another 45 minutes, so whatever we can do to help out this project, we'll do that. We can administer the loan on behalf of the county.
So, I guess by learning about this community benefit situation, we're grading private camp roads, we're doing some of these, in some of the past projects with the
brewery.
The brewery, the river project, all these other sorts of things. This seems to fit into that same sort of category, not that, and I don't know all the specifics of that, I don't know if I would have been on board with those, but anyway, I would just feel better with some, a little bit of skin in the game as far as, the loan, if that's doable, plus, you get the, you end up with the 15 grand you need to get opened at the same time, and then 7,500 interest-free loan, small payment over time. I don't know if that's helpful, but
Can I?
I will say too, we do serve as a
Just a minute.
fiscal agent for other nonprofits awaiting their exempt status. So we could entertain that too if Brittany doesn't want to go the route of forming a nonprofit. And if that was to close, would the commission be okay with for doing that second half, or, I don't know what your take on the nonprofit model is. I mean, I think.
I'm a big fan of for-profit.
Yeah. Well, it's all.
I just,
Yeah.
I like capitalism, I'm sorry, just.
I think the end result and the end cash flow is gonna be the same, it's gonna be a, kind of a break-even, business model. And so probably for the long haul, it makes more sense to run it as a nonprofit. But setting up that board, the legal fees, all that stuff, will take time. So we've started as a fiscal agent, I think there's 3 or 4 different nonprofits who are awaiting RS, which is about 6 to 8 months right now. So, there's that option. It sounds like some of you are pushing the nonprofit, some may not be concerned, but that's an option we could explore.
And you're looking at a time frame of roughly how long?
I'd say within 8 months, we have determination from IRS. Meanwhile, she could be, maybe paying on that second half of that loan, but I'll let the details, so we go.
Question?
Well, here's my concern.
John, let's-
Oh, sorry.
I wanted to ask Mr. Curtis, no, that format that she's asking about is what we did in Madison, right?
It's similar on a smaller scale,
Yeah.
where you would ask a business to put some skin in the game, and if they did a renovation or bought equipment, and that went past a certain threshold, the town would offer a grant back for half of that, 10,000 for 5,000, that sort of thing. So, I mean, you could structure a TIF budget going forward that would allow for some of that to be allocated to programs like that.
But she has some skin in the game, because she's got that worksheet there. That's what-
I put in over 35,000 of my own money right now. I paid up for a year of rent. My equipment, just the gym equipment was 22,000. That's not including the software, 4,000. Mirrors, things like that, televisions. So I put in quite a bit of my own money.
There's your skin.
Yeah.
But my concerns are, which I expressed before, I know we have a lot of money, but it seems to be we're very loose with it, looser than I'm comfortable with. And I don't think we're supposed to just sort of sprinkle it around wherever we feel like it. I mean, there ought to be some sort of governing protocols or principles or whatever. I'm very much in favor of exercise. I do a lot of it, and I've been doing it a long time. I've been a member of 3 different gyms in this area the last 40 years. 2 of them went out of business, and the 3rd one got bought out by the hospital. So I think it's a very dicey business. I think it's sort of a natural nonprofit sort of affiliation with the health, like the health center or whatever. So I'm just, and I don't think we're in the business of running your business and asking you to account for every nickel we give you if we did give you money. So I'm not comfortable with the idea of just giving you $15,000 and saying, I hope you stay in business with this money, and if you don't, see you later. I mean, I'm not particularly happy with that, so I like the idea of, quote, skin in the game and matching funds and seeing whether or not there are other ways of structuring this. But I'm not happy with just voting to approve $15,000 out of our community benefit fund to just give you with no restrictions or controls or paybacks or bailouts or anything else like that. That's the way I feel.
I suppose if you wanted her to have some payback or restriction, we could have a lien on the properties. So if she had to liquidate, we would get whatever we'd get from the liquidation.
What did we do with Bigelow Brewery and Run of the River?
I don't know.
We just
Well, Run of the River is different. They're not really a for-profit organization.
So,
Well,
It's-
Bigelow
it's like-
Brewery, we don't.
Yeah, but
they
with
came
Brewer,
out
we did,
a major
I know.
amount of money, and then he's not doing what he said he was gonna do.
can you actually do that though, where she's leasing the property and the property is somebody else's?
No, no, no.
The personal property.
Personal property.
The actual
security interest in
Equipment.
weights.
Yeah, okay, that's one.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, no.
Turn to one of your spare bedrooms.
I echo John, and that's why I said what I did in the beginning, and I really, a little bit of research on what we've used this for in the past, and for me to give this money out to businesses that have potential to make profit or make profit is not what this community benefit money should be for. That's my thing.
As far as security, in terms of collateral, typically we do equipment on these properties.
So what are you suggesting? That if we approve this, you would
We could put
structure it in such a way that we'd have a security interest in the equipment?
Yeah, we put a UCC filing on that asset. It could be some of the equipment, up to the value of the loan, registered with the Secretary of State. And so if she tries to sell that, kind of pings, so no one can really buy it unless it's out of the back of your truck, back window, but.
Well, it is Bingham
yard sale.
But that's one form of security, because there are a lot of businesses that have lease space. You can obviously look at personal assets, but it's much cleaner for a lender to find a business asset.
Right.
So when the person across the street opens up a similar business, they come past us for $15,000 too. They say, well, why not me? Isn't that the big problem with the private
No,
sector?
I agree with that. I think right now there isn't a facility. So you can say, look, we wanted to make sure this facility existed in this community, and one does now, I mean, I get your point, but I think opening a can of worms is a concern with some of you, and I see that, and I don't disagree with that, but I just view this as a community benefit, or a benefit to the community more than a for-profit business model. And so that's why I'm kind of vouching for Brigham on this. I think, Bingham has under 1,000 residents. They've really had a hard few decades. We're trying to revive that plywood mill at the Quimby site, but the location of this gym is in a former school building that the town didn't have to give it away, but there was, there were not a lot of tires getting kicked over there. So the fact that someone bought it and they're trying to do something with it.
Quick question.
Yeah, Scott, you had a question first.
Have you researched maybe a partnership with current fitness center owners that are looking to expand into different territories or areas?
With Curtis, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
not Miller. I have explored that option with him, we talked about it, but he did not want to
You
do
know,
it. He
anyway,
didn't see
so
the investment.
none of the others were
No,
interested?
Kelly the same way. And Kelly, she gave me some of her guidance,
Yeah.
and she said basically the same thing. When she first opened the gym, it was pretty much bankruptcy state until the hospital took over. So she gave me some advice, and I bought used equipment. I'm trying to do it the smart way, and we're in a.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Patrick?
I like the idea of the nonprofit. Your idea about doing the loan, and then your idea about just releasing it if she receives the nonprofit status. I think that's a good way to go. Because it is hard to own a gym in this area to make a profit. You know, she's willing to try to get the nonprofit status, whether it's through attaching to the healthcare facility or just on our own or with the school or whatever. And I think that by relinquishing the loan, that gives, I guess, gives that a little incentive to go out for the nonprofit status.
Joel?
So I guess just a thought, if we were talking about handing out property tax money, this would be a no-go. If we're talking about handing out sales tax money, this would be a no-go. Income tax would be a no-go. This money is in this fund because wind towers were put throughout our region against our will. And this is basically something to try to make up for that. That's what this money is. When you look at $400,000, $15,000 isn't a lot of money, but for me personally, 15 is. So that's where, in my situation with, making it, 7,500 and then 7,500 being a loan, you get the money, you're able to open the doors, and ultimately, in the end, we're in it for $7,500. So, and that's how, this is it a TIF? Does it say tax in it? Yes, but it's not income tax, it's not property tax, it's not. So, that's how I look at it.
So instead of a grant, you want to restructure or vote this down and then move to approve a grant, a loan?
No, it's up to her.
Well, that would be the thing. I guess what I would recommend is if you and Christian could work together on some of the things that we talked about that will work for you to make this be able to happen, and then come back to us with sort of that plan. Maybe this doesn't work at all. Maybe the only way that this is gonna work is you gotta have 15 grand for the doors open. So it doesn't make sense to go through all the work if, you see what I'm saying? So you guys, if you're able to do that and do that work and come up with a plan that is doable, and then at that point in time, then we can have a conversation about that and then vote on it.
A good business plan.
Yeah, I do have a business plan.
Ah.
Well, I mean, more of the $15,000 that she needs.
Right.
Some of the things that we talked about, Christian working directly with her on how that looks.
I would be open absolutely to exploring the nonprofit. My real job is a real estate appraiser, so this is really just something I'm doing on the side. But if I had the right resources, I would absolutely explore that option. I prefer not to do a loan just because I already have a home equity loan that I use towards this. So I don't want to double dip. I don't think that would be a very smart thing to do. But the nonprofit, I think, absolutely I would be open to. I want to see this, stay open for a long time.
Is that something you can work with, Christian?
Yeah, I mean, I don't need board approval to facilitate the loan, so if you want to vote on that, then leave it up to Brittany if she changes her mind in the next couple of days, but, at least there's a scenario that you voted on of a half grant, half loan mix at 0%. I guess the only question would be the term length on that. Probably want it 2 to 5 years to make it. We hate to lend and say, hey, here's your first bill and it's super expensive, and set people up for failure,
Right.
But it's
Right.
going to probably do the term length, and then we can finalize something with her and get that going. And I don't know what's timing for you. It's at least, it'd be 2 weeks to put it on a warrant, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I could see if my board would entertain advancing that getting reimbursed from the county. If it's a huge time
Yeah.
crunch for her to, procure
Yeah,
that.
and go for the lien on the equipment. Everything according to Hoyle, that way we can get her moving, but we have some structure to it.
So Brittany, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So you're a real estate appraiser. This cash flow projection you've given us does not involve you getting anything and no money at all. And it's basically your projected sales, is that just a projection on $22.50 a month? Is that just a certain number of members you think you?
Right, yes. Yeah, if I'm lucky, I'll break even, which I've prepared.
But you'll break even without making any money, break even. I mean,
Yeah, I wouldn't make any money.
You're just doing this as a volunteer, basically.
Absolutely. Which sounds crazy, but.
And would you have employees?
My son.
Because
My
he's,
son and myself. It is, like I said, it's 24/7, so, we'll have specific desk hours, and I'll give contact information if they want to sign up,
but this is all uncompensated time?
100%.
Okay.
That's a real nonprofit,
Yeah, it's,
not like these fake ones.
no, it's a challenging thing you've taken on.
Yeah.
So right now, we have a motion to approve out of the county, community benefit fund, a $15,000 grant for Main Street Fitness. So, all in favor of the grant? Any opposed? See, that fails, so with that, to approve out of the community benefit fund, $15,000 to be provided to Somerset County Economic Development Committee as a loan, half loan, half grant to be provided to Main Street Fitness.
Do that now?
We can do it now, or not?
I would prefer to see the proposal.
Okay.
Have the proposal put on, put on our next agenda.
Yep.
Be able to look at the proposal and approve or disapprove it at that point.
Okay,
Okay,
Makes
I
sense.
agree.
all right. So, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
At least you have some door open.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Resolution 23-141 to approve out of the TIF funds $30,000 to the Lexington Highlanders Snowmobile Club for the purchase of a side-by-side. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah.
Yes?
Is this a matching fund?
We discussed that at the last meeting, and I know Joel and I were thinking about a 50-50 match. This is not. This is a 75 us, 25 them, at their estimate of what the side-by-side would cost. I put this on the agenda as what they requested, but you certainly have the authority to change the amount if you do decide to grant them some funds.
What was the number at 50/50?
20, it would be 20,000.
It was 20 even, correct.
Because they had 40 grand in their equipment fund.
Yes, they had some money, they said they didn't want to get too cash poor, but, they can get a little cash poor if they're gonna go 50-50.
So they could afford to just buy the whole thing out of their own money,
Yeah,
which is why they have the
I don't
money.
know if they would or not, but.
So if they would, they probably don't need it.
Yeah.
If they had to buy it and use up all of the cash on hand, I suspect they wouldn't be buying it. That's my guess. I don't,
Then the equipment they have would be useless because they wouldn't have the money to put fuel in it. They wouldn't have the
Right.
money for the equipment to actually maintain the trails.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So,
They do have to have some
we
reserve.
contribute towards equipment. We don't buy the full thing. We go 25% or 50% or something in that ballpark. depending on the total amount of what they're buying. You know, so in this case, I thought 20,000, a 50/50 match would be fair.
And that's what they did.
Why wouldn't 25, 75? I mean, what's the thinking there? Why isn't that
Why
fair?
was what?
You said anywhere from 25 to 50%, but we just went to 50%, so why isn't it 25%?
Oh, when I said 25%, I was thinking about the groomer we helped pay for in Jackman. It was over $200,000. And we went $50,000 was our contribution. So that's where that 25% was in my mind. Last year, not last year, 2 years ago, I think it was, we actually bought or contributed towards the purchase of another side-by-side for this same club. But they're very spread out in this area, and they're using the previous side-by-side on the left side, the Lexington side of the area for the snowmobile club. They want to get one for the Concord side of this club, because it's a long distance in between, side-by-sides are good for smaller distances, you don't want to go too far in. So they're looking to do the same type of work on the Concord trails. You know, so that's it. And last time, we did a 50/50 match on the previous side-by-side. So, you know, they wanted a little bit more from us, but, you know, 50/50.
So 50 would be 20,000?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Can I make a motion to amend to make it 20,000 for the purchase of the side-by-side
Is there a second to the
out
amendment?
of community benefit funds?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the amendment? So, the motion has been amended to read to approve out of the TIF funds $20,000 to the Lexington Highlanders Snowmobile Club for the purchase of a side-by-side. Any discussion on the motion as amended?
Just a question for Dave. So what do we get for, do we get some sort of evidence that they purchased a side-by-side at some point in
Yeah,
time?
we can require receipt of purchase.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can see what the final amount they paid for and all the extra equipment they bought with it, the tracks, the cab, and all
Okay.
that stuff.
Okay. That would be good. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Resolution 23-142 to approve the purchase of the tanker pumper for Rockwood Fire Department in the amount of $25,000 out of the Rockwood Fire Station capital equipment line.
So move.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Resolution 23-141 to approve the payments out of the cost recovery account for the Rockwood Fire Department for the bills in the amounts of $1,021.36 and $266.
So moved.
Second.
And how about a little discussion of what this is? Dave?
The Rockwood Fire Department responds a lot to rescue situations, ATV accidents, snowmobile accidents, and that sort of thing. And they developed a program, which the previous commissioners voted on, to do a cost recovery where they're sending a bill to the insurance companies for this equipment, and they get money back, and they're allowed to use that to buy certain equipment for the fire department with commissioner approval. And what this was, that these invoices are for, was a piece of equipment that had to do with their air compressor, I think for the air tanks, broke. So they had to buy some pieces for it. So that's what these two things are.
Okay.
So basically, they'll pay the invoices, but they just want permission to use that account they have, the cost.
Do you know how much there is in that account at this moment?
I do not remember.
Last I was, there's a balance of a little over 2,000. That was like a couple months ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's enough to cover the, $1,300.
Yeah. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you. And warrants, resolution 23-144 to approve the treasurer's warrants for the general fund, sheriff's correctional jail and UT in the amount of $98,226. For the general fund, $37,826.59 for the Somerset County Jail and $102,418.75 for UT, for a total of $238,471.34.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Miscellaneous discussion items, commissioners only?
Yeah, I'd like to, at some point, have a workshop. We need to revamp on how and who is eligible for grant money.
Yeah.
Because we gave out grant money for profits and for non-profits, so we need to get it in writing somewhere so that we follow it.
Yes, and our incoming administrator had made a suggestion of formulating that as a TIF.
I wonder if there are other governmental, counties or whatever that deal with this issue that might have something in place that we can use as an outline or.
We wrote up the TIF agreement, paperwork with the state had to approve. And it has categorized, which I was going to give to you guys, I can't remember if I did or not now, but it gave all these different ways we could spend money and who we could spend it on. And it being TIF, it's pretty restricted by what the state allows. The community benefit funds can be used pretty much anywhere in the county. TIF funds are strictly for unorganized. Community benefit funds can be used inside towns, like we're looking at the Bingham fitness project. And that's always been commissioner discretion, pretty much. The community benefit money can be spent how you choose to. I mean, $173,000 went into the Run the River program.
Right.
That may be nonprofit, but the brewery, the insulation mill in Madison, the plywood mill in Bingham, those are all for profit. But we're doing an economic stimulus, trying to create jobs in the area.
Right.
That's kind of why we were willing to donate money. And on top of loans, as Kristen said, we have a lot of outstanding loans also. But we have given grants to for-profits just to help them get started and create employment opportunities.
Well, I think every case is different, but I agree completely that we should have some kind of standards and, because.
Well, you saw what we did and then what we turned down was like,
Right.
without a standard.
Yeah, exactly.
Giving it to the plywood mill is something different than giving it to a golf course or something. We gotta figure out what's going on. So.
Yes, absolutely.
What do you have against golf courses?
I'll talk to you later.
Why do you hate golf courses so much?
Too many bogeys.
Too many golfers on them. Okay. Any further discussion items?
Deep sea diving submarine.
Public comment? And before we enter into executive session, 5-minute break.
Good. Read my book.
Can we get to one meeting without an executive session? Well, it happens every single time.
I know. I look at these carefully.
I know. I hate to see it get
I don't
picked
think,
off.
I don't think the
It's for your help.
Madison, this does not have to be an executive session.
Which one's that?
Madison patrol contract. I think we ought to agree on that. There's no money involved. I mean, there's no money discussion. That should be conducted in the public forum. Shine a light.
Cleanse it. Cleanse it with the bright light.
Yes, we're one mind, brother.
You're coming along.
You're coming along.
Be on. Get you away from the dark side.
I'm not in the dark side.
You are so in the dark.
No, I am not.
You are unbelievably in the dark. For such a smart guy, I can't
You should
believe
hear the
how
discussions that my wife and I have. We get deep, dark, down into.
Well, extremes on both sides.
I like the middle.
From the state.
I'm in the middle.
I am,
And you may have, and I forgot too. So,
I completely.
Now, here's a guy,
right now.
he's new burner phone and a regular phone.
I picture it being similar to like, when they did the ARPA funds. They said, okay, you can use it for this and this and this.
It's very wide.
It was very.
She said
Very,
Because I had, when I submitted that to the state,
Oh, I get
it's
that.
all.
No, you know what?
The word is the same, in the amount
Go
change.
right through this.
They're all percentage, I told you what I had. I put
I unlocked it.
mailing list, money put after, because we can spend all the money we want to put for.
That was your-
And this is just flat out under the tab, not the community benefit.
Right.
It's just.
Unlimited. Where we want to spend community.
It basically has a title, community benefit, and then everything goes.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
I mean,
yeah.
there's probably a few restrictions, you know, like if we wanted to open an gambling hall or something like that, strip club would work.
So each one. You know, they've been without one for a long time.
Yeah,
That's probably why things are going down.
It's solo hotel, but upscale.
we should strategize it different.
Reminded me.
But, you know, if that's commissioner's money, if that's a project they think they want to fund,
Don't work out.
then community benefit money can be.
Yeah, that's
Then they know they have.
Yeah, feds.
It's basically,
Yo, so I was
the
gonna
five
say
people
was
that
when
the
we came
voters put in these
I
seats,
said,
there's a
oh,
lot
let's
that
put
they're.
that little candy shop that they opened in Wisconsin.
Oh, hi, I was just.
So-
The one they say to me,
We think the money is best in
It's
here,
across from the sea.
and that's it, and there's really no way you over your head.
It's one of those things, everybody goes to Red, yeah, everybody goes to Red Meat.
That was it.
But there's a place across the sea back there.
36.
When you
That's
kind
20 years for the
But it started.
I worked somewhere,
Oh, okay. That's, yeah, I figured.
I remember those old the TIF itself is 30 years. But by the time 30 years rolls around, we probably not.
But everyone, yeah.
Oh, yeah, right, they're gonna walk away.
Red,
As soon as they're not
red
making,
meats, right?
making
Somebody
their subsidy
goes,
money,
it's a lot
they're
more.
gonna walk away.
That's a tourist
Just like they did everywhere else. They're gonna-
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
the wind towers
yeah.
wouldn't exist without government subsidy.
But, so I've always gone down around.
So,
that.
you two meet with them?
I never
It's
know.
pouring so hard.
Well, I know the commissioners here voted it down, and
Well, we rode by and I was like, I bet they're flying.
I was there in the public hearing, so I did do this. That was years ago.
And we went by and.
Actually, I went out to Rockwood up and we.
that one,
I'm not that
That was a good one.
dedicated.
yeah, you want to talk about some negative opinions, yeah, you're talking about.
Yeah, there was some scratches.
All right.
It won't slide. I was like,
Is there signage on this?
it's sticking.
Yeah, Rockwood is.
Yeah, you can start signing it then.
We can sign them now.
Yeah.
You guys,
All right, thank you, David. All right. Uh-oh.
What do you mean, uh-oh?
We're a gang here, we're gonna. Get a lot, okay.
They circled the wagons.
Executive session, number 1, Title 1, Section 4056A, Personnel, Jail.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? We're in executive session?